I want to bring in now Ali Noorani, Executive Director of the National Immigration Forum. Thanks for joining us here on the Hill, here on set. Let's pick up where Gotti left off. Reaction now to the president's plan to actually follow through and build the border wall. To, as my colleague Mark Murray puts it, take him both literally and seriously on this pledge.
Well, President Trump is going to propose to spend over $40 billion in the American taxpayer money to build a wall that, at the end of the day, will do very little, if anything, to secure our nation. There are better and smarter ways to do this that will not cost the American taxpayer so much money. There's better use of technology, better use of manpower, and a more strategic use of infrastructure. If he wants to spend money on the wall, on the border, he should be spending money at ports of entry, where we see the majority of drugs, guns, and money being smuggled, and where you see trade and tourism being choked by antiquated ports of entry.
To play devil's advocate, I think that there are some in the administration who might say something like, listen, he promised to do this, he ran on it, and he won. Americans elected him into office based in part on this pledge, so why wouldn't he follow through?
Well, when you look at the polling numbers coming out of the election, a very large number, in fact, 60% of Trump voters supported his candidacy, elected him to be president, but actually are quite concerned about his immigration actions. Many of those actions we're going to see rolling out today and tomorrow.
So another one of them is the possibility. So our reporting is that there's definitely going to be the border wall executive action. There's going to be one to prioritize the deportation of criminal aliens, although it's still not clear how that differs from current policy, and possibly something on sanctuary cities. Essentially cracking down on these cities for refusing to cooperate with federal authorities. What is your take on that?
Well, there's no such thing as a sanctuary city. Local law enforcement, and
a lot of conservatives would disagree. Well,
they should actually, a lot of conservatives are lawyers, and there's no legal definition of a sanctuary city. When we talk to police chiefs and sheriffs across the country, from Republicans to Democrats, they have taken an oath to serve and protect the entirety of their community. In order to do that, they need to retain the trust of the entirety of their community, whether somebody's here documented or undocumented. If the federal government comes in and bigfoots local law enforcement, mandating that they take on immigration enforcement responsibilities, that trust is frayed. The entire community is much less safe. That is bad law enforcement. Smart law enforcement is actually to have immigration reform that requires people to attain legal status, pass a criminal background check, pay a fine and taxes. That is smart local law enforcement.
Another immigration action that we are told is in the works is some kind of plan to follow through on his pledge for extreme vetting. So in other words, something that, in the language I understand is still being crafted, would potentially temporarily ban people coming in from certain Muslim-majority countries based not on religious purposes or religious background, but on, for example, history of terror in some of these nations. Your take?
This is a backdoor plan to get to a ban on Muslim immigration. Let's be honest.
So you think this is just a, sheep by a different name?
Exactly. And when you look closely, actually, at our refugee resettlement policy and the security vetting that goes on already, an individual, before they even set foot in the United States of America, they're going through 2 years of security checks, and they're residing in really difficult refugee camps. So there's nobody leaving Syria today and coming to the United States tomorrow. They're fleeing Syria today, staying in refugee camp for 2 years, and then eventually, maybe, possibly getting to the United States after they've passed these security checks. So I think this is, again, bad policy. There are better and smarter ways to secure our nation and to make sure that we hold our values as a welcoming place.
Last one for you quickly. Have you or your organization directly made this point to the president or members of his team the last week?
We have not. We have been looking to make our point. We do think that this administration has an incredible opportunity to fix our immigration system. Republicans have always wanted the credit for fixing the immigration system. Well, they get full and fair credit for anything immigration related for the next 2 to 4 years.
Ali Noorani, thank you very much for joining us, and we appreciate that perspective.